And we're live 2020. Happy New Year, everyone. A belated Happy New Year. It is January the 5th, and I am wearing a hat to keep my bald head warm. It's not exactly how I intended to kick off the video, but that's my lead in. Um, to honor some of the podcasts I've been listening to and sort of learning from their time frames, I'm going to do my darndest to try to make something that isn't hours long of me just dissertating about whatever's on the top of my mind. So, I want to talk today about a couple things, team dynamics and what that means. And team dynamics to me, I've read a couple books, and that doesn't mean I know a lot about it. It means that I'm interested in it, and I've learned a thing or two from those books, and I've practiced them in software development teams, especially. Um, So with the lead into that, team dynamics is obviously how people interact with each other, trust, their disciplines that they're practicing. There's sciences to it nowadays, right? And so things in theory, things written down, and then things in practice, discipline across the board, persistence, stick-to-itiveness, all those words on paper, they really mean something to me, and they really help me ferret out the human emotional side of being on teams and the dynamics in teams where people need to take responsibility for their duties in, let's say, a larger software build. So, as a team lead, as a technical lead, one that has been often joining teams in a particular role, and as the team and the funding grows, I find myself often becoming a technical or a team lead, capable of dealing with executives and managers and planning teams and project management experts and agile coaches and technologists, technicians of all types. So I really enjoy working at every level of the stack, not just on the technical side, but I also have strengths in full stack, is what they call it now. So as a as a mini multi-year, I'm getting out of the habit of saying, okay, I've got 25 years web experience. All right, I said it. I'm not sure that that accolade wins me a lot of things, but I'll tell you that I've seen patterns occur, and I'll tell you that I've had my successes and I've had my challenges in being in teams, and communication is key. Communicating at the right pace, the right time, the right way, with honesty and integrity. I mean, these are all just not words on a piece of paper, right? So enough about that for the moment, because I didn't really put a concise overview of how I was going to talk about team dynamics or even the book list that I've read, or do I have all the answers? But I will say that I often, in stressful times with system builds that last, more than just weeks, but maybe many months, um, when people get emotional, which we all do because we're human, and we're dealing with systems which are systematic and they're organized and they are precise and distinct and logical, hopefully, right? Um, those two worlds colliding can make you, sometimes they can seem incongruent. And so what was my point is that oftentimes I center myself around the key customers' needs and their expectations and the manager's vision, the folks who are funding the projects, who have their reputations on the line, and the technical teams implementing them. And I tell them all that no matter what issues people are having at that particular moment, I'm going to side with the system, because ultimately the success of the system is the proof of what the team, the implementation team, and the management team were able to produce, the result, right? The ongoing result. And then also the customer. They have a vision in their head. Hopefully, it was communicated well or in an iterative way. And that, whenever we side with the system as a team, we treat each other well, we communicate properly, and we set correct expectations. I mean, all of these things don't just happen automatically or always easy. Sometimes we have to have tough conversations, and not so much tough, but like bring things up. Learn to maybe ease off the gas pedal a little bit and focus on precision and quality, because it's so easy to buy big systems and then put them next to each other and maybe do a quick connection. But really, when you really refine those disparate white spaces, those areas that are not so hardened, if you will, when you really go that extra, the 80-20 rule, and you finish the last 20 piece, you really get something there. So today I didn't really expect to kind of go on about with some of that, but that's just some high level philosophy I have about being involved in some very large system builds and small projects. I mean, no matter the size of the project, it's usually more, if it's a large project, there's more people and eyeballs involved. If it's a smaller project, you still have stakeholders and customers and technicians working on it. And somewhere in the middle is still this system that has databases and middle tier and services and front end, and all of those things need attention. So I digress and say that I've been listening to a podcast that's cool because it's about 16 minutes long. And I haven't checked my timer here, but I have a feeling that I've been going for about 5 or 10 minutes thanks to this amazing coffee. And so over here in beautiful San Diego, I got to just kind of warm up the conversation and say, every year around Christmas time, I make sure to spend some time in south of the U.S. border and helping out folks from worthwhile causes. A small charity that we all put together because we have so much abundance in our lives here, especially as technologists, that it made a lot of sense to give back to people that could really need it. And you go into that knowing, because the business books tell you to do that, but then when you actually have your hands on the, for instance, a pair of brand new shoes, $10 pair of shoes, you're giving into a person that really appreciates it. So that really changes you and gives you perspective. And so this year has been amazing. Just a quick update, we spent quite a bit of time building some yards for some dog rescue that we put together. Again, grassroots that we just sort of picked up along the way while we were giving away shoes and putting um, little Google minis inside some orphanages. We pick up these dogs that need help and we put them somewhere and make sure that they have food and shelter and love. And so that's been a real benefit. So I'm going to go ahead and try to keep this podcast quick, or this vlogcast, if you will. And I'll talk about Adam Massey's vlog? No, Adam Massey's podcast called GrowthSwag. And they're about 15 or 16 minutes long, and I'm just going to show you up on the screen here. They got their advertisement in there. He's got one called The First Podcast and Thoughts on Servant Leadership. And then he's got another one called Developing Using Core Values to Live. There's some dots there. Morning. And then there's number 3, Leading with Empathy with Maria Eames. I hope I said her name right. I did listen to all 3 of these. So again, just respecting the time of trying to make something of value for you folks out there. I'm going to go ahead and kind of just give you some of the notes I got from the first podcast, and let's get a little bit of Adam's voice in here if we can. Let's see if I click play. I love the intro. Let's see where.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 1 of the GrowthSwag podcast. I'm Adam Massey, and today I'm going to be taking you through my first podcast ever. Hopefully the first of many I plan to start doing, with a focus really on leadership and really exploring growth, right? Not only personal growth and growth.
So I can't say enough about the tidbits that you get out of something so short and succinct, but I'm not short, it's 16 minutes long, but some of the videos that I listen to are hours, 2 hours long, and there's lots of good content in there. But Adam's delivery and his points are really well received and consolidated. So it's easy to sit through 3 of his podcasts. And let me just go through my notes here. So on episode 1 of Growth Swag, he talks about serving your team before anyone else. I get that, and again, I don't want to take away too much time, not giving back some distinct points personally that I've learned, but serving your team before anyone else. I got to go back and kind of dig into the notes of what he said there. but it's just something that I noted. And I really understand that what he's meaning, especially at the larger organizations. What I took from that was there's lots of teams and lots of goals, and sometimes even teams inadvertently competing for the same platform or for enhancements to it. Like some of the larger companies I've been with, that can happen a lot for, large intranet systems or extranets. So serving your own team before anyone else makes sense. You're committed to them. The team is an important part of that picture. And then another one I noted here was he says leaders exist to serve the people, making hiring people your top, make hiring people your top priority. I think he said great people. So it's really important that you bring obviously good people on the team. So I noted that because it's very true. Because I have had times where I've had a team start with myself and we grew to about 60, both onshore and offshore, and a couple hires that we did maybe a little bit too quickly really changed the dynamic of a really well running team, and then it took some effort to sort of refine that positioning. So it's just important to really get to know, um, there's personality types to every team that you build, and it's important that you get a nice mix, the correct blend, so you can get the systems built out. So latitude within this certain scope. He talked about empowering people, like saying, "Hey, you're really the CEO of this particular area," and he said he meant that, and I really liked hearing that because he's able to give you a scope in his leadership style where it says, "Hey, within these parameters, you can operate as if you are the creator and the person running all of this." So latitude within a certain scope. I thought that was really poignant and helpful. And also knowing what is the strategy and giving a certain amount of a decent amount of transparency to the team so that they know what they're working towards rather than just working hard and not knowing if their work's going to end up just being something that's replaced, down the road or whatever, but really understanding the iterative strategy. So I thought that was good in podcast one of Growth Swag. And then my notes here to Adam would be we should push your audio to YouTube, even just put like a soundbite equalizer going there and maybe a photo and just get the audio up there because I'm a big believer in YouTube, obviously. And so this video or this vlogcast is getting a little long, but I got a couple more here with some notes. So podcast two, he says, always do what's right for the customer. So it seems to be something that he keeps teaching us that, and I agree with that. Now, I mentioned earlier in my audio, my video here, that in teams with so many different competing goals, the database team, the middle tier team, the executive team, the project management team, the delivery team, the customers, the client leadership, the clients, there's just a lot of people who are all pushing for some vision at the same time. So when you get a ball that everybody's trying to move down the road, and everybody's pushing on it, sometimes they start to forget about quality. Or sometimes you get this habit of wanting to push things just because it's the habit of pushing. Because maybe you've got a lot on your plate or you've seen other things stagnate and you think if as long as I push, something good will come out on the other end. So again, I always say in times of that, when you're releasing to production and you're doing iterative stuff to a live system, it's important to side with the system too. They are the partner in the ball. They are the ball. So when you can side with the system and still respect everybody pushing on it, and at times even say, hey, it's probably best if we don't do a production release in the middle of the day, for instance. Sometimes it's these airs of, just common sense that you need to really kind of rise up and say, look, I'm going to side with the system. This will be best for the system, which is ultimately best for the customer and the company. So, and number two, organizational values, scalable execution. I really liked that. I dug into that more a little bit, and I'll mention that here on page three. And then what I like, oh yeah, here they are, values and scalable execution. And he talks about love, courage, optimism, and growth being his core values. Now, I haven't done the homework of going through the same work that he did to get his core values, but I jotted down some starter ones for me. So one of them is honesty, trust, perseverance, and quality. So with those four things in place, I really like what Adams were there, and it's as a person who executes in developing systems, I think the honesty and communication, or if you can lump those into one, is so important. You know, you don't hold your cards close to control a system. You're honest about where you're at with the system and what's needed. And then trust, you got to trust your team members, you know, because you know, and there's so many moving parts. So that's a critical piece, I think, in my mind. And then perseverance. It's so easy to get tired and dog it down and just say, hey, you know what? Let's not let's not continue this, or to start complaining when you're tired. But to persevere is the way that you end up making something special. That actually is, and then it leads right into my fourth one, that quality. You know, I think that quality is, people talk about it, but it's the 80-20 rule again. The last leg of the mile. It's so easy to mash a bunch of things together, but you do those last pieces, and that's what will give you the competitive edge and a long-standing system. My headset's about to go out, so let me go ahead and move to podcast three, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up with some applause. I have that digital file somewhere. Maybe I'll play that. Um, so podcast three was understanding perspectives and empathy, transparent, active listening. He had someone on there. Who was it? Let's see. These darn ads keep popping up. It was Maria. So they talk about, you know, yoga, and I wrote down affirmations. I think that there can be a lot of stress in projects, and just having positive affirmations that you listen to even while you're working, or sometimes when you're meditating or you're in a calmed state, whether it's truly meditation or not. Um, I think affirmations are high on my list, and I noted that he'd been talking about yoga and meditation, so that's cool. And then paraphrase of emotion and content, authenticity and transparency. I mean, I can't say enough about that. So guys, I went a little longer than 16 minutes. I'm really trying to learn to consolidate some thoughts into smaller sound video bites. So happy New Year to you, and I'll look forward to making new videos. And I just really appreciated the Growth Swag podcast by Adam Massey. Thanks a lot, guys, and talk to you soon.